One of the big stories to emerge from today's action is around last year's grand finalists in the Sydney Swans. For a half a footy, Kane, they looked excellent against the Gold Coast Suns. But then either side of half-time, Damien Hardwick's side, they piled on 12 unanswered goals for the first time in club history. It was a domination. In the end, they win by 38
Yeah.
points.
We were on the text and saying how good Sydney were looking in the first. Isaac Heaney was on fire. Chad Warner, fresh ink on his contract. He was bursting away and kicking goals. You thought, wow, they've turned the corner here. But I didn't see that third quarter coming. Those numbers that we put up on the screen, as bad as you're going to see. I thought some of the turnovers in the middle of the ground, which we're going to see here. Roberts, what is that? Unpressured? That's Lloyd. Like, just no pressure at all. He's kicked it to a 2-on-1, 15 metres. You can't defend that. So good teams are going to absolutely punish you. Chad Warner hack kick. I mean, that's going to come back with interest. We know that. So remarkable that they have, a 26-point lead, I think it was, at the 20-minute mark of the second quarter. And then all of a sudden, at the 13-minute mark of the fourth, that's in the high 40s. 12 unanswered goals. So it speaks to two things. It speaks to a lack of leadership from Sydney and Dean Cox's probably inability to halt momentum. But it also speaks to how powerful a unit this Gold Coast side is and how they can just click into gear off pressure, and they've got the talent there to make you pay with 12 unanswered against a team that played in the grand final last year.
Let's hear from the coach, Dean Cox, post-match.
Yeah, I think the concern probably all year has been inconsistency. I think the week before, the second half against Port Adelaide, exactly the same, just flipped this week. So, the ability to be able to put your foot down as hard as you possibly can when you've got a tendency, but then stop it. At the minute, that's something that, we've got to be really hard on each other and with the players about to make sure that doesn't happen as often.
So firstly, his voice sounds rather hoarse there, Dean Cox. It must have been a frustrating watch from the box, Kane. But I put it to you, do the Swans have a soft underbelly? I know there are some big names out, Mills, Goulden, Papley, Amati, McDonald, even Fox, Cunningham and Adams. But when the tide isn't going the Swans' way and their big stars aren't getting their hands on their footy, is that underbelly exposed? Because it was today against the Suns.
Probably fair, I think. I mean, not many good teams concede 12 goals in a row. I mean, when you get to 4, you're thinking, gee whiz, what are we going to do? We're going to get a number up at stoppage. We're going to put one back. What are the leaders going to do? Are they going to slow it down? There's instruction, and you're thinking, how are we just going to halt this for a moment? That's at 4. That got to 12. So you would have to say, yes. So, the Callum Mills discussion is a really interesting one for me. I mean, since he's been named captain, the story of events has been he's got injured on Mad Monday. He's played 7 games, and last year I thought he probably at times didn't look like he was in their best 22, and then he hasn't played again this year.
Would you take it off him, Kane, the captaincy? Would you take it off him?
Yeah, I think, absolutely at the end of the year. It's Isaac Heaney's team. Like, you just look at the way Isaac Heaney plays. Like, so that was a huge error. Now, they couldn't have foreseen some of the injury stuff, but he's got a pretty long history with injury. So that's really hurt them. And then Goulden is a young leader, but he almost looks like a next captain as well. And then Papley's the energy and the fire starter. So you take those 3 key leadership pieces out, then most teams are going to struggle. But I didn't predict this from Sydney. And maybe it's just one of those years where you write it off, you go to the bottom like they have done in the past, you get your draft picks, you get your list sort of more stable, you get some injured players back, and then you shoot back up, which I think they're capable of doing next year. But post-disastrous grand final losses doesn't read well. So if you look at, and I was part of one in 2007. We were ruined for 5 years. That's the worst of the lot. So 2007, you can see what happened. And then it got worse from there. Sydney did a pretty good job to rebound and finish 4th in 2014. But down the line of those that have been smashed, the fallout from Adelaide, like they haven't been the same team since. They're still trying to get back in the finals, and the preseason camp and the disaster of all that, sack coaches. The Giants the same, the Bulldogs, everyone has struggled to the point where if you get destroyed in a grand final, the psychological scars the following year, and they did their best to address it. They've been honest about that, but you just can't recover from it.
Bailey Humphries was a shining light, wasn't he, for the Gold Coast Suns when Damien Hardwick arrived at the club. He identified this player as potentially a Dustin Martin type. I mean, he's getting the ink, isn't he, like Dusty, and today he played like him too.
Played exactly like him, and you can see it now. Like, best player on the ground by a mile. Kick 4, but I mean the power in his game, like to launch up from 55, he can break tackles. He's really good in the air and smart as well. So He's like a Cam Rayner type to me, and probably to compare him to Dusty's a bit early. He's more the Cam Rayner at his best. So if he can start doing this consistently, which he probably hasn't been able to do, look out. But today it looked like he'd arrived.
And look out come finals should they make it, because I feel like a player like Bailey Humphrey is made for the big stage.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.